Okay, we'll wait just a minute or two while a few last people get their seats. While they're doing that, I will thank everyone for coming out tonight. I did not expect to have standing room only for energy aggregation. A little surprised by that. But clearly it's a topic that's on a lot of people's minds, so hopefully we'll get some good information shared tonight and have a chance to answer some questions. I need to speak up? Okay. I guess I kind of have to be right into the microphone, don't I? Okay. All right. The good news is if there's anything that I say that is missed, we are being recorded tonight by a representative from MVCC, and we will have a video of this available on our city website or the YouTube account or both. There will also be a link to the slides that we're doing tonight. Many of you were able to pick up a handout on your way in tonight that had room to make notes and things like that. If you did not get one, City Council member Healy Jackson was here just a little bit ago. She grabbed one and went running off with it, and she is having a few more copies made over in the other room as we speak. So those will be whisked in here soon. We're trying to meet all needs, one-stop shopping here tonight. Is everybody fairly new to the topic of energy aggregation? Do we have any experts here? We have one expert. Okay. That's one more than I expected to have, and I am not an expert either. I'm going to try to cover this in a way that makes sense to everyone. But as we go, please, if you have questions, feel free to ask them as we go, okay? What we're going to cover tonight, I'm going to give you some background information on what energy aggregation is, for those of you who don't know at all. We'll talk about Ohio's energy market in general, how it's working in the era of aggregation. We'll talk about the aggregation programs that the city of Oakwood offers. And then probably the part that a lot of you are interested in is I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can go about choosing an energy provider for yourself. And if I'm not speaking into this, I'm bad about holding it up, so if you don't hear me, please tell me. Let's talk about some background on deregulation, customer choice here in Ohio. Everything that we're talking about tonight started in the late 1990s. Up until that time, there were monopoly utility companies that controlled just about everything in terms of gas and electric utility and energy provision here in Ohio. In 1996, there was some movement at the state legislature to start promoting what they called unbundling of natural gas services. And by unbundling, what I mean is they started to talk about separating out the delivery and the supply aspects of gas. We'll talk a little bit more tonight about what that means, but unbundling it, deregulating it, and trying to promote competition. Up until that time, gas in Ohio was monopolized by pretty much four companies: Duke Energy, Columbia Gas Ohio, something that's now called Enbridge, that used to be called Dominion East Ohio, and in our area, what we used to call Vectren, and now we call CenterPoint Energy. On the electrical side, also in the late 90s, the same kind of push was happening in the legislature to do unbundling with electric. There were more electric companies in Ohio, but the four big ones at that time were AEP Ohio, Duke Energy, Ohio Edison, which then was called First Energy, and AES, what we have now, which used to be Dayton Power and Light. A lot of you probably still remember Dayton Power and Light. The important thing to understand is that up until that time, customers had no choice in where they bought their utility. If you lived around here, for example, you got your electricity from DP&L and you got your gas from Vectren. That was your only choice. And those companies provided not only the infrastructure to deliver this stuff to you, the gas and electricity, but they also provided the gas and electricity itself. That started to change with the idea of unbundling and deregulation. What was decided at that time was to allow companies to start unbundling this and to compete for this. And we'll talk more about that. But the pipes, the infrastructure, the conduits, all that kind of stuff, it is what it is. In our area, it's all owned by AES or by CenterPoint. But with the unbundling, you've got the ability to have other companies competing for the right to sell what I call the juice, the gas, the electricity, the actual commodity that you're buying from these utility providers. And that competition was supposed to drive down prices and promote customer choice. As a result of that deregulation, you now get a utility bill that has those two components broken out separately on there. There's a distribution amount that you pay, and there's a supply amount that you pay. Like I said, distribution is the infrastructure. I've got a little power substation shown here. Distribution is that infrastructure, the stuff that's in the ground, the wires overhead, the pipes and the conduits that move it all around, the power plants, the mains. All that stuff is what we call the distribution system. And on your bill, there's a distribution amount that you pay directly to AES for your electric or to CenterPoint for your gas. They collect that on the bill. The other part of your bill is what's called the supply, which we were just talking about. That's the juice, the commodity that's being supplied to you. That is priced separately on your bill. It may be that you are still paying AES for your electric, and it may be that you are paying CenterPoint for your gas. But you may be getting that from a different provider now too. And you may have seen that I encourage people to bring a copy of your bill with you tonight. You can look at your bill and see who's currently providing that for you. A lot of people may have signed up for a third-party provider at some time, and they're not even aware that they did that. You may have had somebody come knocking on your door that was selling an electric service or a gas service. You may have had someone call your house. Sometimes people sign up for this inadvertently. Some people are still with AES or with CenterPoint. It can be very confusing, and that's why I encourage you to bring your bills tonight. We're going to talk about where you can look on there to see who's currently providing that for you so that you can think about whether you want to change or whether you want to stay with that. Supply is kind of the focus of our discussion tonight. When it comes to supply, there are two different ways that a consumer can choose their provider. Or I guess I should say there are three ways. You can do nothing, in which case you're still with AES or with CenterPoint. But the two options for getting a competitive rate are you can go and shop the rate yourself. And the way that we do that is there's a website online, we'll talk about here in a little bit, but the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio has set up what they call their Apples to Apples or their Energy Choice website. And you can go on there and you can comparatively shop different rates that are available for different third-party providers, and you can sign up for one, and you can do that right on from the comfort of your home on your computer. The other option, if it's available in your area, is what's called a governmental aggregation program. Local governments are allowed to, either on their own or collectively with other local governments, they are allowed to negotiate for prices on behalf of their residents and to set up what are called aggregation programs. Here in Oakwood, our voters authorized the city to do that back in 2003 for both gas and electric. That was very early on when all of this unbundling and deregulation was happening. Oakwood voters said, yes, we want that option to be available here in Oakwood if there's a good price available. Oakwood did not actually have an aggregation program until 2023, 20 years later. And the reason for that is that there were not a lot of competitive providers. This was supposed to take place very quickly, and lots of people were supposed to jump into the market, and prices were going to drop, and it was going to be a very exciting time with lots of providers out there, and it didn't materialize that way. The few providers that there were not particularly competitive. There just wasn't a whole lot of advantage to having these kinds of programs until around 2022, when you may remember in the news, AES's rate almost doubled. AES went from, I think it was about 5.5 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity to 10.9 cents, almost 11 cents per kilowatt hour. And for that supply side of your bill, that's a significant jump. That almost doubles what you're paying for the electricity. So that was the time when we here in Oakwood started thinking, you know what, we really need to look into whether there are some competitive providers, whether we can put together an aggregation program and offer it to our residents. And we did that in 2023. We offered our first one. I will mention here, it's important to understand there's a couple different ways that these governmental aggregation programs can work. It's what we call opt-in or opt-out programs. And it just has to do with whether you are put in the program automatically just because you live in a community that has one of these programs, or whether you have to do something to sign up for that program. If you're in it automatically, it's an opt-out program. It means you're in automatically, and if you don't want to participate, you have to affirmatively opt out. The other type is the reverse of that. You're not in it automatically. If you want to participate, you have to opt in. Our city council has taken the position that we only want to offer opt-in programs in Oakwood. They view it like your cell phone service, your television service, your internet, something like that, that should be up to the individual consumer's choice as to where they want to go. So they have felt very strongly that they don't want to just dump residents into a program that they may or may not want to participate in, but they will offer that option wherever they can. That's going to be important as we go on here tonight. Oakwood's aggregation programs. We have two of them, one for electricity, one for natural gas. But the key thing to understand is that our electricity program, which started in 2023, is coming to an end. And for anyone who may be wondering and does not already know this, there is not a successor program coming behind it. We had hoped that we would have one to offer. And this is where the opt-in, opt-out comes into play. We went out for bid earlier this year trying to find additional providers for when this program ends to take over and be the next provider. And unfortunately, we were not able to find anyone who was willing to do it on an opt-in basis. They would only do it on an opt-out basis, and our council chose not to participate. Yes, sir?
When did you guys go out for bid?
It was earlier this year. I don't know that I recall the exact time frame. Katie Smitty was here. Do you recall exactly when those bids went out? It was maybe May?
April, end of April, very early May.
April, May, somewhere in that time frame.
Okay. You guys received an email May 20th, 2025 from SOPAC, which is an energy aggregator. Did you ever return that email?
So we inquired about SOPEC, and the concept behind SOPEC is pretty much very similar to what we're doing we're in a consortium with Miami Valley Communication Council that has 20 other municipalities combined in that. So we go out together as a group through MVCC to get that pricing.
Yes, but you didn't come to an agreement with MVCC, correct?
So MVCC then contracts and goes out and puts the bids out on our behalf.
Sure. So since you couldn't come to an agreement with MVCC, then we're all going to default to AES's standard rate.
Oakwood did not, I think what you're asking is, Oakwood was trying to participate through the consortium that we belong to with MVCC. We were part of a large bidding pool with other communities. That is the group that they elected to go with a provider that was an an opt-out provider only, and Oakwood elected not to participate. Whether there was another provider that might have done something individually just for Oakwood, I don't know that, and I don't know that that's something that we were bidding individually. So I don't want to spend too much time on that tonight, but there is not an electric program being offered on the backside of the one that's expiring.
Right. I'll save it to the end, right? But as it stands now, I want everyone to know, as it stands now, since they couldn't come to an agreement and there is no electrical aggregator in the works, we're going to default to the standard offering rate, which is set by AES, which is higher than any of these aggregators can provide for.
We'll cover all of that tonight.
All right. Okay.
Thank you. Anyway, that's the status of the current electrical program. We were with, originally it was Energy Harbor. Anyone who is in that program probably is aware that that subsequently changed to Dynegy. I think there's a change of ownership, if not ownership, at least the name. Dynegy is who's offering that. That will end in December. And as he was pointing out, at the termination of that program, those who were in it, those who were participants in it, will be placed back in service automatically with AES. What that means is that they will be getting AES's standard choice offer, the current rate that's offered through AES, which I have in my notes as 9.45 cents a kilowatt hour right now. We'll talk a little more about how you can shop for a third-party provider if you don't want to stay with AES. On the natural gas side, we just started our natural gas aggregation program here this fall. Archer Energy is the provider with that. That was done through a bidding process, just like what we had done through MVCC for the electrical. Archer has agreed to allow opt-in participation for Oakwood residents, and many of you would have gotten a letter, looks something like this, back in September of this year. You all should have gotten this letter at your home, telling you how to sign up, how to join. That information is also on the City of Oakwood's website. If you are not already in that program and you want to join up or sign up for it, you can go to the city's website at oakwoodohio.gov, look for natural gas aggregation, which is right on the homepage, and all the sign-up information is there. The good news about that compared to the program we were in previously for electric is, unlike the earlier electric program, there is no hard and fast enrollment cutoff date. When we did electric, you had to get in by a certain date. I think it was in November of 2023, and if you missed it, too bad, so sad, you can't sign up for the program. That was especially problematic for people who might have moved into Oakwood after the program began or after that deadline passed. They were not able to sign up for the electrical program that we had. And people who may have already been locked into a contract when our program started and had to wait until their contract expired, they also may have missed the boat on that. So it's very good that Archer is offering the opportunity to not lock in a fixed enrollment date. They have told us that they could close that door at some point if there's some turbulence in the energy market that's unanticipated, but they do not anticipate closing that enrollment date at any time in the near future. It should stay open through the contract period.
How do you know
Yes, ma'am.
that any of these things aren't scams? And that's why we would look to you to figure that out.
How do you know that any of the other third-party providers aren't scams?
Yeah, you get stuff in the mail all the time, and you know, it's,
I-
legitimate.
What I would recommend, first and foremost, is and this is just my personal recommendation, I would disregard the things you get in the mail. I would disregard the people who come knocking on your doors. The scams that I hear about primarily tend to be the door-to-door folks that may or may not be legitimate. And there are some that are. I don't mean to denigrate anyone who's doing that sort of door-to-door work. But what I always suggest to people is that you go through the PUCO website and go with the providers that are listed on there. They all have their contract terms available there, and you do have to read it. Unfortunately, you do have to pay attention to the contract terms. That can be important in terms of what you're agreeing to, and we will talk about that a little further as well.
So why doesn't the city decide to figure this out for all of us?
We have, in the realm of natural gas, we have a program there. We were not able to get a provider that would do the electric program on the terms that City Council was looking for.
So maybe we should have the opt-in or the opt-out program. Maybe
That's
the city needs to approve that.
That's certainly open for discussion. I'm sure council would be willing to hear that if there are residents who feel strongly about that. I know that this is the decision that was made at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us what the rate for Archer is?
Yes, the rate for Archer is a fixed rate. It's 66 and a quarter cents per CCF, which I think stands for centa cubic foot. It's 100 cubic feet of gas. 66 and a quarter cents for that. When the program first started, that was actually just a little bit higher than what CenterPoint's rate was, which I think CenterPoint was at 0.57, 57 cents per cubic foot. But those rates have gone up already to where the Archer program is cheaper than the CenterPoint program. Important thing to understand there is CenterPoint's rate is a variable rate on a monthly basis. It changes every month. And it certainly goes higher during the cold months when you're more likely to be using gas. It is 69 cents right now, anticipated to stay up through January, through February, through March, and we've been told, based on projections, and I don't understand the formula of how they price this stuff looking a year down the road, but we've been told that they're expecting it to be in the 70, 72, 75 cents range next winter. The Archer program that Oakwood is offering right now is a fixed rate, that's 66 and a quarter cents. Fixed rate, it does not vary through May of 2027. There is no cancellation fee with that. You can jump out at any time you want. And that flexibility is actually a benefit. You can jump in when you want to, you can jump out when you want to.
So is that what you recommend then, is Archer?
I'm sorry?
You recommend
Is there
Archer?
a reason you didn't renew the electric?
I'm hearing multiple questions at the same time here. Somebody's asking me if I recommend Archer. I would say that is the city's negotiated rate, and we think it's a good program. If you're looking for a set it and forget it kind of option, that is certainly one worth considering. I hesitate when you say, do I recommend that? Because you also have the right to comparison shop your own third-party rate, and you might find a better deal. But I believe that that's a very competitive rate. Yes, sir.
66 cents, how much is that for 100? How much is the 60 cents for what?
66 and a quarter cents per CCF, which is 100 cubic feet of gas.
Cubic feet?
Right. I had one other question back here, and then I want to move on a little bit. Was there a question back there? No? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so if you wanted to go all the trouble, you could take Archer in the winter and DP or Center Point in the summer.
You could do that.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Just bring them in the summer.
Unless and until, I mean, if something would happen and they close enrollment on that, and again, that's not anticipated, but if they were to close enrollment at a time when you were out, then you might not be able to jump back in. I don't know if I would, sort of day trade on this kind of thing. All right. Let me move ahead just a little bit here. Let's talk about choosing an energy provider. Going back to the electricity, with the termination of our current program, you have two options there right now. One is you will be placed automatically back into the AES standard choice offer if you were in the Dynegy program. That happens with no action of your own. That's actually a good thing, in my opinion, because with a lot of these third-party providers, if you're in a contract with them, when that contract ends, you don't automatically go back to AES. You just get bumped to whatever that provider's then current rates are, which in some cases can jump pretty significantly from what you were paying under a contract. At least here with AES, you go back to a known provider at a known rate, and you have option number two, which is you can shop with a third-party provider if you want to try to find your own supplier in the absence of an aggregation program. And I guess I should mention, I'm hearing some concern that we don't have an electric aggregation program right now. The door is not closed on that permanently. We want to offer that again if we are able to offer a competitive program on an opt-in basis. For those of you who say, I don't like opt-in, I want opt-out, City Council is willing to hear that kind of thing. Again, nothing is carved in stone, nothing is closed on this. I'm just here to tell you what we're currently offering and why those decisions were made.
Who did the MCCC pick for their opt-out plan?
I'm sorry, MBCC?
MCCC, who's their opt-out plan?
I don't remember who they went with this time around. I could get that information for you, but I don't have it here as I'm standing here tonight. Yes, ma'am.
When you look at these electric options, there are green options available. Is that part of AES at all?
The standard choice offer, I don't believe, includes the green options, but a number of the third-party providers have that. Sometimes you'll find that there's a differential between conventional and green, and the green is a little more expensive. You have to get on there and kind of compare around. So, again, I would say if you're going to shop your own provider, right now, and I checked this today, the current rates are between 7 cents per kilowatt hour and 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's a pretty wide range compared to the standard choice at 9 and change. If you're going to shop your own rate, you want to do so carefully. You want to make sure that you understand the terms and conditions of that. Moving over on the gas side of things, you have three options right now. One is to stay with the CenterPoint standard choice offer, which through the end of this month is 69 cents per CCF. Like I said, that's a monthly variable rate. January's is looking to be in the same vicinity, although I don't know that rate yet. Through the Oakwood Aggregation Program, which is option number 2, it's Archer Energy fixed rate through May of 2027 at 66.25 cents per cubic foot, or CCF. Option number 3, just like with electric, you always have the option to shop your own third-party provider through the state's website. The current rates that I saw today were between just under 58 cents and almost $1 per CCF. Pretty wide range. If you have your bill with you tonight, I've got an AES sample bill up on the screen, first of all. Page 2 of your bill, this area here that is circled on here, and please don't pay attention to that number up there. I hope none of you have an electric bill of $19,000. I would have a heart attack if I got a bill like that at home. Page 2, though, is where you will see who your current supplier is. You may see that it's AES. You may see that it's any one of a number of other providers. I would tell you, if it is someone other than AES, before you jump ship and go to a new one, before you get on and start shopping around and finding yourself a new one, contact that supplier and understand the terms of whatever deal that you're in. You want to know if there's an early termination fee. You want to know if there's any penalty for you to get out of that before you get into something new. And it may be that you need to wait in that for a period of time before you start shopping for a new rate. But that's where you would look to see if you are with AES or with another provider. This particular bill shows that it's with IGS Energy. Here's a sample CenterPoint bill. Again, it's small print, so you don't have to read it all, but again, on page 2 is where you will find that information. It's right here under what they call the gas supplier detail. And if you see something like on this bill here, it says Snyder Brothers Energy Marketing. They are a provider through CenterPoint. They are part of the standard choice offer. CenterPoint actually has 4 providers that are providing what they call their standard choice offer. This is where it gets confusing. Any of these 4 are it's just another word for getting your gas from CenterPoint. And those 4 are Direct Energy Services, DTE Gas, Snyder Brothers, and Spire Marketing. Spire is S-P-I-R-E. If you see any of those on your gas bill, that means you have the CenterPoint standard choice offer pricing rate currently.
Can you go through those again?
Yes. I should have put them on a slide. Those 4 are Direct Energy Services, DTE Gas, Snyder Brothers, and Spire Marketing. On both your electric and your gas, I'll get you just a second here. On either the electric or your gas bill, when you see any third party there, you will always see a phone number or some sort of contact information for that provider. Most of the time, anybody who's signed up for these things has long forgotten who they signed up with or how to even get a hold of them. That's why it's on there. They're required to put a phone number on there, and you can call them and find out the terms of your current contract. Yes, sir?
You mentioned early termination fees being a concern. Do you happen to know, for those of us who were in the aggregation program, which is ending in December, or going to this new, I think it's AES standard, do you know if AES has an early, in other words, are we stuck for some period of time because we're automatically turned into this? Do you have
No. The question was if you were a participant in the electric program that's ending now and you're placed back into supply with AES, is there any penalty for terminating with AES and jumping to go somewhere else? The answer is no. There's no penalty to leave the standard choice offer and go to a third-party provider. It's once you go to a third-party provider that a lot of times there are contract terms that you agree to that may bind you to stay for a certain period of time or to pay a penalty if you leave early. What I'm showing you here is this is the website address for where you would go to do this third-party shopping, should you choose to do that. It's energychoice.ohio.gov. The easy thing to remember, and I always tell people, is if you go on Google and you just Google Ohio apples to apples, you'll find this web address too. It's the first result that always comes up. It's a website that's maintained by the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. You can go on here, you'll see right there, you can choose your utility. Either choose electric or natural gas. Whoops, I'm going backwards on my slides. You can choose electric or natural gas right there, and when you do that, it'll take you to a page that looks kind of like this. That'll show you all the different offers that are available for either your electric provider or your gas provider. In this case, it's gas. You'll see across the top there, you can see this is a column with all of the different suppliers that are there. You can arrange it by price per CCF. You can arrange it by whether it's a fixed or a variable rate. Whether there's an introductory price that goes higher after you sign up. Whether you can organize it by the term length. Some of them are short, like 6 months. Some of them may be long, 36 or even 48 months. You can look in terms of whether there's an early termination fee or not. Some of them say 0. This one, for example, says there's a $150 early termination fee. Sometimes you will see monthly fees here. Some of these plans, you have to pay a monthly fee in order to get this competitive rate. These are all things that you want to pay attention to when you're comparison shopping these. And over on the left, this area right here, you can put a lot of those variables in. You can say, I only want to look at fixed rates, for example. I don't want to look at variable rates. or I only want to look at ones that have a monthly fee of 0, or, no early termination fee. You can set up those filters over there and have it present the options to you, and then you can even order them. You see these little arrows up here. Once you've filtered over here, you can use the arrow to line it up by price and comparison shop the different rates that are there. The things to watch when you're shopping your own are these things that I'm already talking about. Key things that are important. I think it's very important anyway. I always look for a fixed rate versus a variable rate. I don't want it to get adjusted on me down the road. I don't want it to be dependent on what's happening in the market. I want to know that I've locked something in and that it's going to stay what it is for whatever duration it is that I signed up, whether that's a year, 2 years, or what have you. I always look for no early termination fee. I always look for no monthly fee. And I always pay attention to that term length. You may not always find exactly the length that you want. I would love to lock in a really, really low price for 5 years, but that may not be an option that's on there. But you want to pay attention to that term length. And what I always tell people is if you're going to sign up for something, put a reminder in your phone or your calendar, whatever you use for calendaring, put it in there about a month before that plan is going to expire. Put a reminder in there to yourself, hey, don't forget to reshop my electricity rates. Don't forget to reshop my gas rates. You'll be happy when that pops up and you do this because, as I mentioned before, what can happen is you get to the end of a contract, you're with Acme supplier, and that contract ends. You don't go automatically back into supply with AES or with CenterPoint. You're still with Acme. They're just going to jack you up to whatever their then current rate is. And I don't know this, but I suspect that they use inflated rates on purpose because they know a lot of people don't pay attention to that kind of thing, and they don't realize that their contract ended and now they're paying 3 times for their supply what they were paying a month ago. Did I see a hand back here?
No, I was agreeing with you. I've seen that, I've been doing this for 20 years since they started this, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
You gotta pay attention when your contract ends and make sure you shop for and if you're doing this, maybe I would say if you're gonna shop for electricity, do it in the winter. Electricity rates are lower, you'll see that. And the same thing with gas, they're lower in the summer. Because the demand is in the winter for gas and the demand is in the summer for electricity, so.
That does.
But it may change with electric vehicles and all that stuff. I mean, all that, it's variables that are being.
So, sometimes it also varies by the term that you get. I know I've gone on before and signed up for something that was a really good rate, but it was only locked in for 6 months. And so instead of shopping in the summer, I'm going to be shopping in the winter the next time it comes around.
Especially in the middle of winter time,
Right. It does take some, it takes some savvy and some strategy to kind of think these things through sometimes. Which is why to the question that I got before about whether I recommend the Archer program, like I said, for anybody who likes to set it and forget it, that's a good way to know that you've got a competitive rate and that it's locked in for a period of time, and you don't have to pay attention to it on a regular basis and worry about when contracts end. Because ideally, when that contract ends, we will have a successor program in place to take its place following that. I hope that what happened with electric does not also happen with gas, and that we're able to come up with a successor program that time around. Do we have any other questions so far? Yeah?
People need to be aware that when they choose these rates, usually about half your bill is on the distribution side. So, your bill isn't gonna go down by half or 10 cents per PCF. You look at the whole thing and a slight increase doesn't amount to much.
That's true. An important comment. We talked about the bill having both distribution and supply components. You're still paying for distribution, what you're paying for that. The wires and the conduits and the pipes all still cost what they cost. They've still got to be able to have people come out and do line clearance and all the things that they do to maintain their systems. So that part of your bill is not affected by this, and it stays fairly constant. It's the supply portion where you can find some savings. Yes, sir.
Can you currently join the gas program if you're not in it?
Yes, the gas program is open now. It went live late September, early October. You can jump in now if you're interested, and the rates for that are a little better than what CenterPoint is currently offering. Again, there's no early termination fee for that program. So if you get in and later the rates start getting variable and you see that CenterPoint is cheaper and you want to get out of it and back to CenterPoint, you have that option. Yes, ma'am.
So when we're in another community like Kettering or whoever else is doing the aggregate program, who are they going to for not Archer? What's the other one?
You're talking about for the electric? I don't know the name of the supplier that was selected through that process, but they are in that program because they did it on an opt-out basis. Yes.
Okay.
And I can tell you, the reason that the providers don't like to do opt-out is there's a certain amount of inertia that happens. You know, if everybody gets dumped in, they know that most people are just going to stay in. Comparatively few will opt out, and they get a bigger market share than if it's done on an opt-in basis. They get fewer participants through opt-in because, again, a lot of people are just going to stay where they are, and they're not going to read about it, study about it, and take the time to opt in. So they do it because they get more market share, and from a business standpoint, I can't blame them. But like I said, from our council's perspective, they don't want to put anyone into a program that they didn't want to be in the first place.
So we are gonna end up in AEP or whatever it is. I guess I'll get you.
You'd be returned to AES, which is the standard supplier for our area.
And we're gonna get opted into that without our decision, it's just we get put into it now.
Yeah, they are the local monopoly provider.
So to me, that's
Yeah,
I'm still being opted into it.
I don't disagree with you. I can argue that both ways. There's certainly at the end of the day, it's the consumer's choice either way, whether you're opting in or opting out. The choice resides with the consumer. So I could take either position on that. But since we first started the aggregation in 2022, that's been a pretty consistent view of our city council. Yes, they like to do it. They want it on an opt-in basis, correct? Yes, sir.
If we wanted to share our opinion with city council on the opt-in, opt-out thing, do you know, is there a straightforward way to do that?
Well, one way you can do that is we have a council member here in the room tonight who is listening to all of this. So I can tell you that they are aware of it from that. The city manager is also here tonight. City council meetings are always open to the public. You're welcome to come. There's always what we call the visitors portion of the agenda when people can step up to the podium and speak. I don't know that will change anything immediately because the program has gotten off the ground through MBCC. But certainly, I think they would be interested in that kind of feedback when the time comes around for them to evaluate another program. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to share my bill is going to go up about $100 a month because we don't have an aggregation program. So originally we had 6.5 cents. Now when I shop around, because the aggregation program ends on the 15th of this month, that means you should be shopping now. When I did shop, apples to apples is inaccurate. You usually have to go to the direct website to find what the rate is. And then you can find, like what I got was a 8.6 cents with a $10 fee. That was the best rate I could find. I called many companies. That increases my cost $100 a month, $1,200 a year. The aggregation program I was talking with AES was at 9 cents for electric when you talk to Miami Valley. So it's a little bit better, so shopping around is good. But with the $10 added, it averages out to about 9.1 cents per month per kilowatt because of that extra fee. So just bear in mind the opt-out would be my preference because we have more buying power.
Right.
And we can lower the rates. The rate that we had was amazing, and now we are kind of like doubling our rate. I was very lucky to get a 5.5 cents gas price, and I'm sticking with that forever. But for the city council people in here, definitely push for opt-out. Get that buying power because the rates before and the rates, the direction that it's going is going to be 10 cents next year, 11 cents, 12 cents. And so that's why I'm now looking at solar, and that's a big amount of money on top of it. So where I'm concerned is that we're talking about opt-in, but the real benefit for the consumers here is opt-out, because that's where the buying power is. And I'm kind of upset that my prices are going up by over $1,000 for this year, the next year, and then it's going to go up even further.
Are you in a single-family home or?
No, I have 2
business?
kids, and my
How
mom-
many kilowatt hours do you use per year?
So this month was 1,700 kilowatts.
Oh my God.
So, and then, but I average about 1,400 kilowatts. So a little bit different. So I have a bigger home, but that is kind of like on top of the increase in water and sewer and property taxes. Gonna add up, and it's gonna make Oakwood harder to get into for these lower, income families, middle income families. That's my big concern here. It's because then housing prices are gonna suffer. You're seeing houses not selling as fast because of that. And so all this is confounding if we don't go into a cheaper rate, because we're gonna just bleed more money over time. So it was a long-winded thing, but I got really pissed off when I saw that happening, and there was no information about it. It just aggregation ended.
Yeah.
And so that's,
Until the very end of that process, I think the hope and the assumption was that the provider was going to offer an opt-in program for Oakwood at the same prices that were offered to the other communities, and that did not end up materializing. Your comments are very well spoken, and I appreciate you sharing them.
and I feel like now we need to restart the conversation,
Yeah.
because, yes, I might have a higher wattage that I incur, but it's always gonna affect people proportionally, because that price is going up for everybody by at least 3 cents, 3 to 4 cents. You can't change that.
I do know, at least for the sake of discussion, I do know that the rate that they got through the new program that NBCC negotiated was not as favorable as the 6.5 cents that we had last time around. So it was going to go up either way, but your comments are well said, and I appreciate you sharing them.
Well, regardless, which is inevitable, especially in the next 10 years because of infrastructure changes, but it is something we can negotiate with buying power, which we have lost, and that's why I'm upset.
Fair point, thank you. Sir?
Yes, to his point, the benefit of these energy aggregators is that they can bundle the buying together. So, take, for instance, the city of Dayton, the city of Huber Heights, Upper Arlington, parts of Cleveland, the Dayton Metro Library, 5 River Metro Parks, city of Riverside. All of those companies, or all of those communities bundle together through SOPEC to purchase energy. So that's what he's talking about with this ability to have buying power in bulk, right? So we do need a default energy aggregator because we've already established that we want somebody to negotiate on our behalf. We don't know if these people are scams or not. And whether we go out to opt in or opt out, SOPEC supports both of those. So I don't understand why the city is just kind of dragging their feet on this. And how they could, I heard that there was no bids or no competitive bids. I mean, I find it hard to believe nobody bid for this deal. So,
Again, the city of Oakwood did not go out on an individual bid as an individual community. We were part of a consortium with other communities.
okay, for MVCC, and so you did
Correct.
not come to an agreement, and then what? What's the next step?
I guess what I'm hearing you say is that you would like for the city to pursue its own separate aggregation program.
No, I would like you to, you need to work with an energy aggregator, yes, to get this buying power. And some of these aggregators, they also have other benefits beyond just straight prices, right? For instance, they can win federal or state level grants for infrastructure, whether that be EV chargers, solar projects, so on and so forth, that AEP, AES, whoever is not going to give to us. So again, I am biased. My wife works for SOPEC. I will put that out there, but it is not a scam. And the SOPEC has done a lot for the city of Dayton to help build out their infrastructure and to lower the prices. So please, the next time, City Council, when somebody reaches out to you, like they did in May and August, please respond to those emails and set up the meetings on behalf of our residents. That's my answer.
Fair enough. Thank you. Are there any other questions about aggregation as it stands at this point? Any questions that you may have about your personal utility bill, who you're with, how to interpret anything on that, how to use the Apples to Apples website, anything like that that I could help answer tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Just to piggyback a little bit on what you said, what is the city of Oakwood's thoughts about what they're going to do next regarding
I don't know that I can speak to what city council, whether there's another plan forthcoming or not. What I can tell you is we did this as part of the group with MBCC and with a number of other communities because that was a very large group with very large buying power. For Oakwood to go out and look for its own aggregation option, we're a little over 3,000 utility accounts here in the city of Oakwood. So the buying power is significantly less. I'm not saying that that's not an option. I don't know that, and I don't want to represent something to you tonight that I'm not aware
Are
of.
there other consortiums that Oakwood could become a member of?
Again, that's not something that I know the
Yes,
answer to.
SOPEC is one of them. The answer is yes.
Okay.
SOPEC is a consortium. It is a council of governments that the city of Oakwood could join with the city of Dayton, with Huber Heights, with Upper Arlington, parts of Cleveland, so on and so forth. We could join with that community and get better pricing because of that bulk buy.
And so just one last point on that. How long is the offer that NBCC negotiated? Is it 12 months or?
I don't know if I know the end date of that contract because we didn't get into it. Do you know, Katie?
I believe it was only a year because we wanted to go back out.
Okay, so presumably we would bid it again at some point in 2026? Okay.
So
Did you hear that?
Yeah, partially. So it started maybe when? Did that when become effective?
I'm gonna say earlier this fall.
Okay.
Again, I don't mean to
I
sound
know,
vague
I
about
know.
that, but
We're not
because we
part of
didn't
that
enter the
deal.
contract, I don't know the exact details about it.
That's totally fine. I just didn't know like how much longer it might be until we might be able to be part of that agreement. If it was beneficial.
Yeah,
We've been part of MVCC for as long as it's been around, and so certainly we would want to participate in any new offering that they were pursuing. Any other questions tonight? It's been a kind of lively group. Yes, sir.
I have a slightly related question.
Okay.
The aggregate, not electric or gas, but it's my understanding that the MPCC created a internet backbone that a lot of the southern suburbs have participated in.
Yeah, there's a fiber optic ring that connects the communities, correct?
What is that about? Who gets advantage of that? Does residents get a chance to tap into that?
It's being used as an internet backbone for those communities, for the cities and for some school districts along that path as well. Primarily. I think initially when they started that, there was talk about whether that could be utilized to sell services, but I don't know that it was ever contemplated that it would be for residential services. It might be more. Does it say that? I wasn't aware of that. I know there was a lot of talk initially about possibly using it to support business parks and things like that, economic development projects, but I don't know that any of that has come to fruition.
The internet would be good. Yeah. That would be a good one.
Yeah, I've heard about this, and the articles in the paper just never made it clear who benefits from this pipe.
Yeah, like I said, as far as I know, it's primarily, the primary users are the cities and some school districts and related users like that. Any other questions tonight? I appreciate everybody coming out to learn about this. I hope it was informative.